All right, I think we're live. Good morning there, David. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, I can.
Awesome. All right, cool. Just doing a sound check, everyone. I see we have a Michael Kowalski watching from the Netherlands. Welcome, Michael. I guess it's a good morning to you as well. We're here in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, so a good evening to our audience. Okay, so welcome everyone who's just tuned in. Today is Thursday, the 21st of October, 2021. I hope everyone's doing great and everyone's staying safe. We have a very special guest tonight with us. He is a regular. He comes on every now and then to give us an update on what's happening on the other side of the world. So we have David Schwartz. David Schwartz, he is the project director from the Litecoin Foundation. He is also the founder of Hedge. And I'll let David get into the details when I pass it on to him. And yeah, he's definitely no stranger to the show. So good morning, David. Thank you for joining us and welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay, so Michael says it's 2 p.m. in the Netherlands. Well, so good afternoon to you, Michael. Alrighty. So this it's been a pretty exciting day over here. And I guess while you're starting out your day, it's been a day of all-time highs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's okay. So to those who are joining us, if you're joining us for the first time, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Also, if you're joining us from YouTube, click on the bell icon and then choose all so that every time we come on, you're notified. If you're tuning in from Facebook, follow us. And if you're tuning in from Twitch, follow us as well. Okay, so feel free to tag any of your friends if they're interested in the topic. And so, David, I'm going to pass it on to you for you to introduce yourself. And while I do that, I'm going to add this to the stream, and we're just going to present it. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Oh, yes. Before I forget, nothing that we discussed tonight is financial advice. We're just two friends having a chat. We're discussing, the inner workings of Litecoin tonight, right? We're just two friends having a chat, right, about what's happening. So please don't take anything that we discussed tonight as financial advice. If you are looking for financial advice, I think you should speak to your licensed financial advisor. Alrighty. So, all right, over to you, David.
Yeah. So, so Hedge is this thing that's just completely consumed my life for about almost 3 years now, actually, from the idea or concept of it to first talkings with people to where we are today. And Hedge is basically, it's a payroll conversion platform. So you can take any part of your pay that you get and have it converted into some cryptos like Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum. And thank you, Litecoin Tech Support. I know who that is too. Thanks, man. Appreciate it, Johnny. and it's revolutionary in that you don't need technically a bank account to get started, because when you go through the identification confirmation process, or what's otherwise known as KYC, know your customer process, once you've completed that on the site, it creates that for you, right? And what that does is it provides you a bank account and routing number that ends up being utilized by the employee to give to the employer, so that whatever amount that they wanted converted gets automatically converted on payday and sent to the wallets that they want. So what it does is it pretty much streamlines that entire process to where you don't have to go through exchanges. You don't have to try and manually push the crypto to a specific wallet once you're done. It's taking all the best things about the crypto conversion process and simplifying it for even a person who's brand new to it. So we're really excited about it. We're in the production testing phase right now. So it is, for all intents and purposes, a live product at this point, but we're being very careful with how we deploy it. So we're really excited about the fact that I would say here in the next couple of weeks, you're having people actually signing up and using it. So it's been a very long, tough road, because we're doing something basically nobody else has done yet, minus Coinbase announcing it a week or two ago that they're doing it, but they're doing it in a different way. So theirs stays in their platform, right? So like if you're using Coinbase and you're going to be using their same type of product, they're not asking you to take it anywhere else. Ours is agnostic. We're basically saying, send this stuff wherever you want it to go. We're just here to help you make it easier, right? And then we also ask wallets and other apps to, integrate us so that they can have that simple process inside of their own platforms as well. So, yeah, that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Thanks for the introduction, David. And maybe do you want to share a little bit about yourself and the work that you do with the Litecoin Foundation?
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I was so focused on the pictures there. I love that video, by the way. So I'm looking at it the whole time I'm talking. But so Litecoin Foundation, I work with the foundation as a project director. So anything that has to do usually with like incoming partnerships, maybe new integrations with platforms that want to try and add Litecoin as an option, right? So some of the ones that have occurred here recently would be like blockchain.com, which is massive. It's one of those OG, wallets or platforms. They added it. Bread Wallet, another one. BitPay. Those are the most recent ones. We have another one that just we won a poll on Twitter the other day. BitPlaza. They're going to be adding Litecoin as well. So, been working with them to make that happen as well. And then other things that come up, like the birthday. We just had the birthday, right? So there were some things that we were doing to celebrate it. Like we have some NFTs that are out there. There's 10 NFTs on OpenSea to celebrate the Litecoin birthday. And granted, you pay for them in Ethereum, but that's just because Omni Lite hasn't cranked up the NFT portion, which we'll talk about later, of that platform. So those are all the types of things that I do within the foundation as well.
Thanks for that, David. That explains. It's 8:08 a.m. where you are right now?
It's 7:08. I'm in
7:08.
Central
So,
Time right now.
you're in Central Time. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
think last time
So
we talked, I was in Florida. That was Eastern. So
that's right. So
yeah.
you're not in Florida anymore.
No, actually, we close on that house. We're selling it. We close on it next week.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay. So, all right. So you're back on Central Time.
back on
Look,
Central Time.
yeah. Thanks for getting up so early to jump on the call.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Uh, really appreciate it. And I saw you tweeting even earlier, so you've probably been up for.
Couldn't sleep very well, man. This is an exciting time for me right now, so it's harder for me to sleep. But yeah, and we can go a
Yeah.
little bit longer today. I know I told you there was a little bit of a hard cap, but we can go longer today now. So some stuff got moved around.
Okay. Okay. All right. That's good. That's good. Yeah. Look, I just want to say, thank you for jumping on because, I mean, you're up pretty early, and you're also wearing many hats. You're the project director at the Litecoin
Mm-hmm.
Foundation. You're running your own business, right?
Mm-hmm.
You founded Hedge, which is really cool, by the way, because
Thank you.
you know we're still so early in the game, and I get so many questions. Oh, well, how do I get started? How do I do this and how do I do that? And rather than do all the fancy stuff, just DCAing in, right? Just do
Mm-hmm.
a dollar cost average.
Yeah.
Treat it as savings.
Mm-hmm.
And you're because I've actually done the models. And you know by dollar cost averaging, you'd be pretty well off. Like you'd do pretty
Yes.
well with dollar cost average. So it's a great service that you're offering with Hedge.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, we're really excited about it. I mean, I can't think of a better way for me to be able to contribute to the space at this point than doing what I'm doing with Hedge, and it makes me feel good to know that once this goes live, that there are going to be people who are even new to this space in general who are going to be using it and learning about crypto at the same time, and we're keeping them safe by starting out with the big three and kind of just bringing people along the way. And we've created Hal so that he can be a helpful tool for people, right? So we'll have other videos that come out talking about things like DCA and so on and so forth. And so I'm very, very happy with the direction that we're going in.
That's cool. Actually, now that you brought up Hal, do you want to introduce Hal? So if you guys can see the hedgehog, all right, David, I'll let you
There
do
it is
it.
right there. Yeah. So Hal is named after Hal Finney, who was one of the original developers on Bitcoin, helped out Satoshi Nakamoto. He was also the receiver of the first Bitcoin transaction from Satoshi himself. And unfortunately, he passed away a number of years ago due to ALS, but his wife is still alive and is present on Twitter. And he helped revolutionize finance as we know it now today. And so we wanted to honor him and Bitcoin in a way that is classy and still draws in new people. So we figured Hal the Hedgehog was a cute marketing way in which to do that, and then also takes the attention off of individuals within the company like myself, and places it on Hal instead, because one thing you learn over time is that usually you start wanting to sort of look up to certain people, and everybody's fallible. And sometimes you like them and sometimes you don't. It could take one thing for them, to turn you off from them. And that's not what this is supposed to be about. It's supposed to be about the service itself and the opportunity that it provides you. And so we come up with Hal as a way to sort of deflect the attention on anybody specific in the company and make it really about the product itself. So that's where he comes from. Everybody seems to love him. So we're even like creating a merch page on our site so that we can sell stuff to so that people are able to have like the hat here, and there's a t-shirt like this here. Go ahead yourself. That was the idea of one of the guys on the team.
That's awesome.
And yeah, and coffee mugs or whatever else. It's always just a fun thing to have. I use them every morning, so it's. I think we really hit gold with Hal. So
Yeah, I love Hal. He's cool. He's cute, and I'm looking forward to picking up a t-shirt.
yeah, I'll send it out to you after this. So
awesome. Thanks, David. All right, so I think we've already got a question from Michael from the Netherlands. So Michael, we'll get to your question really in a minute. So I'll just go through some of the the part of the deck, right? So
yeah.
so I did a quick search today on Google Trends to see in the last 90 days how many how many people search, or what was the search like for Litecoin. You can almost see like a straight line up over here. There's like peaked interest in Litecoin, so that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, very happy about that.
I use this paid service from Sentiment, and it has all sorts of crazy on-chain data on it. And so one that I look at very often is the daily active addresses. So for those of you who are not sure what daily active addresses are, daily active addresses are the number of wallets that actually interact with the Litecoin blockchain. And so you can see the daily active addresses peaking, back in 2017 at the peak. And then the activity dies down a little, and so does the price that goes with it. And then you see this that last run up, which was up to, I think it was $420 maybe. Yeah. And then yeah, but you can see like gradual growth of daily active addresses, and this is usually a good sign. It means that there is adoption that's happening on the Bitcoin blockchain, and you see we're actually peaking right now. I had a quick check. We're actually at about 500,000 daily active addresses. And I checked, the big three. I checked Bitcoin. Bitcoin's close to 1 million active addresses, and I think Ethereum is just under what Litecoin's daily active addresses is. And so, but you can see that the price is kind of, the price has gone up about 11-12% in the last 24 hours.
Yeah, it's still lagging from the addresses, but that's
Yeah, it's still lagging. So with that, I'm gonna put up Michael's question on the screen. So thoughts on new address discount? Could those be still the consequence of Lightbringer? So those of you who don't know, Lightbringer is the game that runs on top of the Litecoin blockchain, or countries like El Salvador jumping into Litecoin. What are your thoughts, David?
Yeah, I wouldn't attribute it so much to Lightbringer at this point. You saw that spike back last September when it came out, and those metrics are pretty clear that was really Lightbringer that was doing some of the stuff that was shown. El Salvador, there's probably some to that, but I'd like to think it's a mix of a lot of different things. Really, the attention on Litecoin outside of just the regular crypto space has grown. You end up having Venmo and PayPal and a lot of these other major platforms adopting it or using it in some capacity. And so that in itself naturally would drive the addresses up, as well as new people coming into the space that now are using exchanges or other things. Wallet sales are probably spiking as well. And so all of those create new addresses. So I would like to think it's a cumulative versus an individual or singular reason as to why it's grown. So I would just like to tab it as its popularity has grown and its usage, its utility case has grown. And so I do like the idea that it's actually higher than the 2017 spike, right? The peak there. And it's a more gradual buildup versus if you were to look on your chart there and you see the 2017, 2018 spike, that literally is due to the end of that bull run. There's probably a 2-month period there where it just goes nuts, and then it tapers right back off to almost where it was before, but higher. And it kind of like sits there in that valley for about 2 years or a little bit over.
Yeah.
And then it starts gradually building up again, right? So that gradual buildup has to do, obviously, with the start of a new bull run, because you can sort of correlate the higher spike there. I'm pointing at my screen. You obviously can't see what I'm pointing at, but
yeah, that's all right. I'll follow.
And so over time, if you were to take that and look back at the 2016, 2017 time period, prior to 2017, like March, April, when it gets added to Coinbase, right? I mean, it gets added to Coinbase originally, and all of a sudden you start seeing a growth in the addresses as well. That's because people are starting to go on Coinbase and utilize that platform. And prior to that, I mean, the way it looks now from where it is today versus prior to 2017, it looks like it was dead, and it wasn't, right? But the usage now is so much more that it dwarfs whatever happened prior to 2017. And that will continue to happen. So like 4 years from now, you're going to look at today's stats, and it'll be dwarfed by the amount of addresses that are active on a daily basis, right? It's just, you're looking at it at a today's perspective. And so it looks much larger, which it is, but in respect to what it'll look like 4 or 10 years from now, it's going to be just a blip on the active address chart. So
I agree. And what you were saying with that, it's not a straight up, in terms of increase of daily active addresses, which means, it wasn't, just all of a sudden, you went from well, almost, I wouldn't say nothing, but you went from there to like 0 to 100 in a few seconds, right? This one's a nice gradual sort of graph that's going up, and it's and we're literally at the all-time high right now in terms of daily active addresses, and that's really cool.
Yeah,
it's just adoption.
And I also like to look at the fact that, like you mentioned, if you look at the top 3, it's half the amount of active addresses per day that Bitcoin is, right? And Bitcoin's at 66,000 or 64,000 per coin. Granted, it's 4 times less the amount of coins. But if you were to try and use simple math on certain things, the value of Litecoin is so undervalued. And I hate talking about price because I love focusing on, what is it being used for? How is it being used? Is it being used? How many people are using? I love that stuff because to me, that validates everything that I'm doing. Price means nothing to validate what I do on a daily basis for the foundation, because the price is only relative to all of the stuff that goes on behind the buying and the selling and the shorting and the, all that crap that goes on. That's not utility. That's not value in my eyes, as far as like how it's growing and what we're being able. These are the metrics. Like if you were to sit down, this is how I look at it. If you were to sit down on a company board meeting, right? The way today's company board meetings might focus on is what's the share, what's the share price? Are we bringing enough value to our investors, right? When they should be focusing on, are we really putting out viable products that people are using, and is that use growing on a consistent basis? Because if that use is growing on a consistent basis, the value for the shareholders will come to fruition at some point, whatever that is. And so that's how I look at, the usage and the utility of Litecoin. If the addresses are growing, over time, if the transaction amounts per second and per day are growing over time, if we're adding it to more platforms over time, those are the things I get excited about.
Yeah. In fact, I know you post a lot on about these metrics on Twitter, and that was what caught my eye because I'm a very data-driven person as well, and so what I see, I like to look at the fundamentals of things. So based on what I'm seeing, this you can really see that the Litecoin blockchain is being used. It is being adopted. You mentioned, you've got Venmo, you have PayPal, right? PayPal's
Mm,
got 350 million users. So, it's getting easier to onboard, and a lot of these major platforms, they'll have three or four major coins, right? It'll always have Bitcoin.
mm,
It'll have Litecoin, Ethereum, and Bitcoin Cash, right? So,
mm.
it's the user base is, that it's already on these large platforms, and so when they adopt, when it's just so easy to onboard. All right, so I'll move on to the next slide. Actually, before, yeah, so this slide was just it's just to remind us, right? Like, Bitcoin, Litecoin just passed, like it just became 10 years old,
Yeah. Yeah.
October 13th, right? Yeah.
Yep.
And it's had 100% uptime.
Hmm.
It's never been shut down for maintenance. That usually happens when I jump on after midnight to try to do some banking. Oh, sorry, you can't access your
Yeah.
your bank account because we're shut down for maintenance. Now, Litecoin has never had to shut down for maintenance, right? In the
No.
last 10 years,
Yeah.
it's just chugged along. It's just continued to push blocks through, push transactions through. Um, and you'll see here. So we got this from the Litecoin Foundation's website, right? So in back in 2013, there were less than 10 coins
Yeah.
available, and Litecoin was there. Litecoin was actually number two. Um, and back then, you can tell that the total market cap was 1.6 billion.
Yeah.
We're at what, 2 point something trillion now, aren't we?
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah.
And we've got I think the next slide
In
shows
eight
how, yeah,
years.
yeah. So now we've got more than close to 13,000 coins,
Right.
13,000 tokens or coins, and Litecoin's still there, right? A lot
Yeah.
of the OG coins aren't there anymore,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
It's interesting. Okay. So it says under 10 at the time,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And now you
Yep.
have almost 13,000 and it's
Yep.
fallen 11 places, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of people be, oh, it fell out of the top 10, it's dead. Think about this, the ratio of being number two out of seven
Yeah.
and number 13 out of 13,000.
Yeah.
It's actually much stronger now than it ever was at that point, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I don't know how you can argue and say Litecoin is irrelevant or dead or anything. I mean, it literally is the 13th in market cap. Once again, I really try not to care or focus on that stuff too much. But if you want to argue those points,
Yep.
13th out of 13,000 versus number two out of seven,
Yep.
right? That's like saying I finished fourth in a competition and there were five people versus, I finished fourth out of 500 people or 5,000. To be
Sure.
number 13 out of all the things that have happened over the space in the last 8 years,
Yep.
DeFi, NFTs, DAOs, all this stuff that's happened, Ethereum coming out and all the babies that it's made out of its blockchain, and yet Litecoin is still number 13 as a currency because it does what it's supposed to do and it's not trying to be anything that it's not, is amazing. And it blows my mind how much people try to intentionally ignore or not provide the credit due to Litecoin and the things that it's done.
Yeah, I agree. Then again, I've always rooted for the underdog my whole life, so that's why I love Litecoin.
Yeah.
Yeah, and look, it's a perfect complementary, to Bitcoin,
Yeah,
right?
it is.
Um, I think the next slide. Yeah, so we've got this. I remember this when I saw this this graphic, right? So for those who can't really see, so that's Bitcoin there, and that's Litecoin. Doing a fist bump. So yeah, I think it's complementary. You would use Bitcoin for much larger transactions, right?
Yeah.
Therefore, you would need the most security on. Then, obviously, now there is the Lightning Network. Actually, there's a question from Michael. Michael, I'll get back to the LTC BTC question. I'll flash this one up, and then we can actually have a chat about this one. Okay, so Michael wants to know: do you know the minuses of the Lightning Network? I only hear the positive aspects, but I'm curious about the negatives. Yeah, so surprise, surprise for those of you who don't know, Litecoin also has a Lightning Network. And I think I've got some slides later on which shows Charlie Lee with doing the first Litecoin.
Jack Mallers, yeah.
Yeah, with Jack Mallers, right, doing the first Litecoin Lightning transaction. So yeah, so I think so you've got Bitcoin for much larger value transactions because it takes 10 minutes per block, right? So and then you have Litecoin for faster transactions as well as it's secure and it's decentralized, and obviously now there's the Lightning Network, but the Lightning Network is, obviously it's a layered solution on top of the main chain of Bitcoin and Litecoin, I suppose, because Litecoin also has a Lightning Network. But in a way, so when you talk about the security model of both Bitcoin and Litecoin, it's a proof of work consensus in order to secure the network. But then when you think about that layered solution of using the Lightning Network, where you use different hubs, it's almost like a proof of stake.
Yeah, you get into a more centralized platform or layer, right? Yeah. So it's a second layer. It's not on the base blockchain itself. So you're taking it off of that secure, blockchain area for a bit, putting it into a second layer, which is probably more centralized when you talk about Lightning Labs or Blockstream or whoever else has a Lightning layer that they've created, and then it's getting routed through there. And I would think that's your. I can't think of really too many negatives towards it, but I would think that taking something from the base blockchain and putting it on a second layer that's more centralized is probably the negative that I would come up with. But it's shown that it works. The other negative right now would probably be that there's not large amounts that are put on there. So they've grown it very smartly. They started out with very small amounts that can be actually moved, and over time increase that. And I think maybe the only other part. So what did I say? It's a second layer. It's probably more centralized. They've built it rather slowly, but I think that's on purpose. So I think that's good. I think the only other part that would be maybe a minus is that you have to have a certain amount you're holding in order to utilize a Lightning channel, right? And so if you're going to be sending it back and forth, if you're one of those nodes that's involved, you're actually having to hold that amount, or at least enough to supply whatever is going in and out of your channel. So there's a restriction there of some kind. So that's probably where I would say the negatives come in. But those aren't things that are going to stop it by any means. Those are just like anything, that there's a restriction or some type of a ceiling that obviously can be moved over time. So the fact that the ceiling can be moved higher and higher is a good thing. So that's really all I can think of that, makes it something where somebody can go, well, I don't like that. That's about it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think to add to what you just said, David, in the early days when I used the Lightning Network, you couldn't transfer larger amounts
Mhm.
across, because effectively how it works is it works in like different hubs, so anyone and everyone can set up uh, you know a lightning node, and then you
Mhm.
would connect it to a hub. So think of it like hub and spokes, right? So or like I don't know, if you're into networking, like you just connect all the computers together, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
effectively you have to jump from one node to the next to get to your destination, to get from A to B. And so, in order to get from A to B, if you were sending a million satoshis, for example, um, whilst you were jumping across different nodes, the minimum required from the nodes would be a million satoshis in order to get from A to B, because otherwise, it kind of gets stuck, or you won't be able to get there. But that was in the early days. Now it's being used by a country to,
Yeah.
as as legal tender. It's really being stress tested, and so far so good, right? I think it's working
Yeah.
well.
As far as I know, yeah, they haven't really had too many issues. So I think it's a good social experiment on a much larger level. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's still pretty lightning fast. It's the other day I was just experimenting, because now Twitter you can actually send someone a Bitcoin through the Satoshi. I mean, through you can send Sats, right?
Yeah.
Through the
Tip
Lightning
people or
Network.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I sent I sent I sent something to Jack Mallers, right? And so it went through very quickly. So I think it's the I wouldn't call it a negative, but it's to give perspective or understanding. So you've got this proof of work layer at the base chain, right, which is the main chain at the layer one.
Yeah.
And I think at the next layer, when you talk about the Lightning Network, it's almost like a proof of stake, because you're essentially putting your money up, as David mentioned, and in order to then sort of transact on the Lightning Network. So hope that answers the question. But thanks for the question. Keep them coming. So let me see what the next slide is. Oh yeah. So this was a tweet in 2017, September 2nd, by Charlie Lee, the
Hmm.
uh, the inventor of Litecoin, and he Jack Mahler sent him 0.01 Litecoin on that day. So for those of you who didn't know, Litecoin also has a Lightning network. Um, okay, we can talk about
That
MimbleWimble.
penny's probably worth about 20 cents now.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
I was just trying to
Uh,
figure it out in my head there real quick.
um, Now there's a question. Litecoin. Okay, I think that one we'll get to that. Um, there's another question here, or a comment, I think. So Litecoin is on BitPay and PayPal now. Why use something with large mining fees? Litecoin is a peer-to-peer internet currency that enables instant, near zero cost payments to anyone in the world. Yeah, I think uh, there are a lot of you know newcomers to the crypto space this bull run, and a lot of them have they experience the trading,
Hmm.
and they probably end up leaving their coins on the exchanges. And I think they will eventually figure out that it's if you want to send something out or between exchanges, you're probably best doing it with Litecoin, because it is much cheaper and faster
Yeah,
and secure.
can I
Yeah.
reiterate the story that I put out yesterday on?
Yes, please.
So my son gets a hold of me while it's like blowing up yesterday, right? The prices are going up. He's like, "Hey, I wanted to try and buy some Litecoin on PayPal or through PayPal on Coinbase, and PayPal wouldn't let me do it. It said it was untrustworthy and not safe. And so they won't let me use PayPal to buy crypto on Coinbase. And he goes, can you get the money and then go buy it for me and then send me the Litecoin? And I was like, sure, I don't have PayPal, but mom does, send it to her, and then I'll get it from there, and I'll buy it and I'll send it over to you. And then I sort of like, in a fatherly way, I was like, hey, maybe you don't want to buy FOMO, right? Maybe you want to buy when it's more stagnant and boring and nobody really cares. That's when you're supposed to be doing it. Pretty sure I've told you that before, but by the way, just do it that way, right? And so then he goes, well, I'm actually not buying this Litecoin to invest in it. I'm buying it because I'm trying to get into some NFTs, and the gas fees are stupid, high. And I didn't want to use Bitcoin because it was slower and it costs more as well. And so I wanted to use Litecoin. I didn't think much about it at the time. I just go, that's my boy, right? I was so happy about it. And then I sent him the Litecoin. I was sad that he wasn't keeping it, but still, the point that he was using it because he figured out himself. He's pretty new to the space, right? He figured it out himself. If I'm going to move money via crypto, I'm going to use Litecoin because it's cheaper and it's faster. And when that hit me, then I retweeted the original, and I was like, this is exactly a use case. You can't argue against that. I mean, somebody who really doesn't have as much knowledge he asks me about stuff all the time. So he obviously doesn't have a lot of knowledge on all these different cryptos. So for him to realize the use case just from that specific example blows away anything somebody tells you about there's no utility for it, right? Because this was a guy innocently was just like, oh my God, I'm going to try and figure out the lowest fees and how to get it there the fastest so I can get this thing done. And he picked Litecoin for that. So
you must have been proud.
I was happy because I didn't say anything to him. I really tried to stay hands off because he's like everything that's like popular out on social media. He's asking me questions about it because that's where his attention is. So he's asking me about Dogecoin and Shiba and DeFi and NFTs and all that stuff. And I'll be like, I can tell you what I know without trying to be biased or anything. I'll just give you information, but you're going to have to make those decisions on your own. And if he tells me, well, would you do this or that? Then I'd be like, well, my investment strategy is probably different than yours. You're only 27. I'm double your age, basically. So what I'm looking to do is try and preserve wealth while growing it. You're trying to do other things. And so, we go back and forth with that. He's a very smart dude. But, he's still new in the space. So he asks questions like anybody would.
Yeah. But the cool, I guess the moral of the story is he figured out that, hey, if I use Litecoin to send it, I won't have to pay crazy fees to get it there fast and safe. Mm-hmm. I guess the other thing that probably isn't stated enough, I feel, is that we talk a lot about, we use the words, the word decentralization, right? We talk about decentralized. We talk about how important it is. I think a lot of newcomers don't yet. They haven't figured out or they haven't found the appreciation for that aspect or for that quality yet. The decentralization, the security of the network, the reliability. And so I think, it's still such early days that it's, a lot of education needs to happen. Yeah.
I would agree with that.
We've got quite a few questions rolling in. This is awesome.
Yeah.
I'm gonna flash a few. I haven't read them all, but I'll just flash them anyway. The bear market actually determines which projects are solid and which are not. Yeah.
Yes, I would definitely agree with that. If you've been around for a few years and you went through this last bear market, you'd see the same thing happened, right? You have the bull run, and certain things that are going on at that time dictate who ends up in the top 10 or top 20 or whatever. And then as you watch the bear market go by, you start seeing those fall right back off again. And, the ones that are heavily invested in, like actually invested in, not just being traded, those tend to stay higher above water than any of the other ones. So I remember seeing everything from NEM to God knows all kinds of different stuff sitting there at the top of the last bull run in the top 10 or 15, and hardly any of them are still in there. So yes, that is definitely a very accurate saying.
Yeah, I agree with Michael, and I agree with you, David. I think it's a good test on the resilience of a token or a coin or a project's objective,
Mm.
and yeah, you stay true to the course, um, and from an investment perspective, obviously, when you look at companies to invest in, for example, you do the same. Like you look for fundamentally strong companies who know exactly what they're doing, they
Yeah.
know why they're doing it, versus the ones that looks great, on the outset, but it's a bit shaky when it comes to the fundamentals. Those are probably the ones you tend to stay away from. But yeah, so I think it's quite similar in that sense. So I'm gonna flash another one from Michael. Samson Mao from Magical Crypto Friends commented something about limitations of the amount you can send through a single channel, and heard it on WBD podcast.
Yeah, that goes back to what we were mentioning earlier. There's this, there's only X amount that they can send through a single channel right now. It'll
Yep.
grow, but yes,
Yeah.
that's also accurate. Yeah.
Yep. I think also, I saw a tweet the other day that there's been quite a massive growth in terms of Lightning nodes
Yeah.
popping up. Guilty myself. I set up. I got the Raspberry Pi 4. I put it up. It's interesting because I think it was 5 months ago that I set it up. Downloaded the entire blockchain. It was, I think, about 320 gigs, and I just checked. It's like 420 now,
Oh
so
yeah. Oh, yeah.
it's grown 100 gigs in 5 months. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's a lot of traffic.
Yeah. No, that's a good healthy number. So
Yeah. Um, okay, we've got another comment here. It's hard to transfer small amounts using Lightning as well if you're using third-party medium. So $5 of value. Many don't support very small transactions. Good thing Litecoin works fine without it.
mhm.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So I suppose, yeah, at this point anyway, that's still sort of a drawback could be to Lightning, but you have platforms that are doing it for fairly cheap or claim for free. So maybe just shopping around and finding the right one would be okay. But I mean, to that point, you could literally use Litecoin, and I mean, you're paying almost nothing. So I mean,
Yeah.
and you don't have to go through the Lightning channel
No,
process to do that, right? I mean,
that's right.
that's where it complements Bitcoin. It literally takes the congestion, and you're adding like a bypass to the interstate or the autobahn
Yeah.
or whatever else you call it, and you
Yep.
just use that bypass to get back over to where you wanted to be from the beginning, and you didn't have to sit in traffic very long. So
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Another comment from Michael. Yeah, he basically sent $10 to a friend from Ecuador, and she received $2. Uh,
yeah.
Next time he used Litecoin, and it was basically free. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. So for those who know, right? I mean, because when you actually use it, then you begin to appreciate it. So I see a lot of hate on social media because the price hasn't pumped and hasn't gone to the moon. Um, yeah, but that's kind of besides the point, right? It's a great network.
Yeah, you can't discount that. I mean, that's the majority of why people are in it is because of price speculation. But I mean, if that's literally the only reason you're into it, then yeah, you're going to probably be disappointed right now anyway. Um, but
Yeah.
traditionally, I was explaining this to my wife this morning at the breakfast table. every time I've seen Litecoin just sort of like just sitting there, there's not much happening, and other ones are just going nuts. And everybody's going, "What's wrong with Litecoin?" And then all of a sudden, Litecoin will blow off 10% in 20 minutes, and that's to be expected. So there's not much that happens when that occurs. You don't get a lot of oh my god. I mean, you get a few people, but it's like you expect Litecoin to do what all these low liquidity coins are doing, and that's not how it works. The more people you have holding onto something, the more all those people have to move in unison, right? So it's when you have a liquid asset like Litecoin or Bitcoin, it takes a lot more to move it. So when those things do happen, they're going to be very strong. And Litecoin always has these like violent pushes to the upside, So it'll just sit there and do whatever it does for a while. Then all of a sudden you blink and it's gone up here, right? So
it's almost like I've seen jokes on Twitter. It's almost like a stable coin. Some people have called it for a long time, and then and as you said, you've got these blow off tops. So I look at it as this, right? So we've got all these different blockchains. We have I'm not I see a world of plurality, right? So many chains, and really giving the people choice of which blockchain they want to use for what purpose. And the element of investing in it is cool in a sense that we've been able to monetize a network for the first time. We've monetized the network. I mean, can you imagine the person who invented being able to buy a piece of TCP/IP, right? Or being able to buy a piece of any of the other network protocols, right? It's I mean, the World Wide Web, right? Imagine being able to monetize that and own a piece of the www protocol, right? So this is what crypto has been able to do. You're able to own a piece of the network, and I think that's really cool. I mean, it's best thing since sliced bread.
I mean, can you in the same manner invest in the dollar?
Yep.
I mean, can you in the same manner as you can invest in crypto?
That's right.
No.
No, you can't.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is the first time in history you can actually invest in the currency that others are using as it's being created, right? In a governmental manner. Like, when I say governmental, I mean it's very regimented every 10 minutes or every 2.5 minutes or whatever crypto you're looking at. If it has that type of a programmed monetary governance is what I'm getting at, then you're literally, it's never been like provided like this before. So it is a paradigm shift, whether people in the traditional financial world want to acknowledge that or not. This is something that is going to completely change the way we see money.
And the beautiful thing is that it is programmed in, like it is predictable.
Yeah.
It's not at the whim and fancy of, an expert.
Everything's predictable. The inflation rate, everything, right? So, I mean, it's math. It's math that's undeniable.
All right, so we've got Litecoin Tech saying, classic story, David.
Yeah, I'm sure he would love that. That's what he preaches all the time, Johnny, is the utility of it. So, yeah.
Nice. Litecoin God. Litecoin will take over Ethereum over time. No one's gonna use ETH for those.
I get where he's going with that. I don't know. I'm not gonna comment anyway. I know where he's going with it though.
Yeah. I mean, just looking at today's daily active addresses, Litecoin's DAA is actually higher than Ethereum's. It's interesting.
Yeah.
We can't wait for the NFT contracts using the Litecoin blockchain. Literally, we will save the LTCBC pair. Polygon has already started to compete in that space. Time is crucial.
Yeah, I think anything with Litecoin is very intentional. So when the NFT aspect of Omni Lite is ready, it'll be ready, and I'm very confident people will utilize it, because once you start, just like with my son, once you start realizing the fees, I mean, it really comes down to how much are you paying to do what you're trying to do, and if you can get it cheaper somewhere else and quicker and whatever, at the same type of quality and secure at the same time, people will come.
Yep, agreed. All right, I'm going to switch gears a little bit, David, and let's talk about MimbleWimble.
Sure.
Maybe you can share with us and tell us what MimbleWimble is for the audience.
Yeah, so MimbleWimble extension blocks, or MWeb, is the latest and arguably the most important add-on to Litecoin since its inception, or at least since Lightning Network and whatever else has been created. SegWit. It's taking transactions from point A to point B and masking it, and it's masking the totals that are in the wallets that are doing that. And that's, to me, that's super important, because if I'm trying to give you $20 out of my wallet and you put it into your wallet, nobody needs to know how much money is in your wallet, and they don't really necessarily need to know that I gave you $20, right? Yep. So that's exactly what MWeb does for Litecoin. It gives it fungibility, so that one Litecoin is one Litecoin is one Litecoin, because that argument comes from, especially in Bitcoin early on, when it was used in many ways for things that were probably illegal, and they basically can find out what Bitcoin was used for illegal uses. And so then it's like, it's dirty money. But in reality, if you look at a dollar, you don't really know the history of that dollar, other than if somebody like puts a stamp on it and says buy Bitcoin, or because somebody did that, right? Or if somebody writes I love Lucy on the back, and that's there forever now on that dollar, as long as it exists or something. But you don't know what's happened to that dollar. That dollar could have been in Colombia. It could have been used for maybe like an adult place where you go watch people dance or something, right? It could have been anywhere, but you don't know that. So that's right. It's still a dollar, and it's not worth any less than it was before it got, put in that G string or whatever. So that's the way currency should be. And so MWeb brings fungibility to Litecoin. And it's leading the way again. So hopefully whatever it's doing will also be utilized in some capacity, or at least be looked at as an example when Bitcoin is doing its version of that as well.
Yeah, so that's interesting, and that's coming to Litecoin soon. As I read from the updates from the other David Burkett, who's working on it. The code's currently being audited.
Yes, yeah, and it got delayed a little bit, but once again, it's because if Litecoin's going to do something, it wants to make sure, we're putting it out properly and it works the way it's intended to work. So if it gets pushed back a few weeks or an extra month or a month and a half or whatever, so be it, because you're talking about the rest of history.
Yes.
So what's 4 weeks compared to the rest of time? So.
Yep. Fully agree, especially with it being, the value of which it holds. You want to make sure you get it right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So for those of you who are not Harry Potter fans, MimbleWimble is a spell that Harry used to tongue tie Snape, wasn't it? Yeah, Snape.
I've never watched it. I couldn't tell you. I just know that it's tied to MimbleWimble, which was in Harry Potter. So
yeah. All right. So I'll move on to the next one, which is okay. So now this is so MWeb is coming. MimbleWimble extension blocks are coming to Litecoin.
Yep.
The other thing that's recently been announced, I mean, there's been so many, so much progress this year, so many announcements, right? Is the announcement of Omni Lite. Now,
Mm-hmm.
would you like to talk a little bit about what Omni Lite is and
Yeah,
what's gonna, its
OmniLite's another
implications?
second layer. It's another second layer solution, like MWeb, which is second layer, right? Um, Lightning second layer. All these improvements are being built on Litecoin, and so OmniLite is based off of something that's already been in some, in many ways incorporated into Bitcoin through OmniLayer. So the company OmniLayer produced this. And so over the last, it's been a few years now where this OmniLite was first talked about, and now it finally came to fruition this year. Loshan was the developer on the Litecoin side that helped make it happen and worked with the OmniLayer team. And so what it does is it's providing people the opportunity to do everything pretty much that they would do with a lot of these other hot, cryptocurrencies that are out there. So you'll be able to issue NFTs on it. You'll be able to actually create your own tokens based off of OmniLite. So sort of like you see like I said earlier, there's all these babies that came out of Ethereum, right? And it's funny because they're created on the Ethereum blockchain, and yet they basically talk smack about Ethereum, which is really interesting. Everything from Link to whatever, those are all ERC20 tokens.
Yeah.
So just imagine Litecoin giving birth to a lot of different tokens that are then utilized in the same manner and cheaper. That's something that'll be coming. You can actually do decentralized funding for a company. So similar to something like an ICO, but I mean, obviously it's on the Litecoin blockchain. You can do that. So you can raise money for your company through that manner. I'm really excited about this. And I know we kind of threw it on everybody. It wasn't necessarily something that was on a lot of people's radar, but that was kind of fun because usually there's so many announcements. And like this thing with MWeb, it's been a process over the last couple of years to get to the point where we're ready to release it. But everybody's constantly like, when MWeb, because it was already knowledge, that it was coming. And so people become impatient. This was something where we were able to pretty much just throw it out there because it was being worked on behind the scenes. And it was a very pleasant surprise for a lot of people. And that's always a good thing too.
Yeah, I mean, when I read the announcement, it totally came out of left field. Like it came out of nowhere, and I was like, "Whoa," because its implications are huge. I mean, effectively, you have a UTXO a blockchain, and then you transform that with OmniLite into what they call a smart contract platform, right? Into an SCP.
Yeah.
So you now have you're transferring value across the Litecoin blockchain, and then you throw in smart contract capabilities on top of it, which turns it into like an Ethereum, right? Where you can issue NFTs, you can create other coins that runs on top of the Litecoin blockchain.
Yeah.
You can even you can have stable coins. You can have create your own coin, as you mentioned. So
Yeah. Loesch did that. He created a Loesch coin as an experiment on it. So I already have people asking me, hey, I'd like to try and build this on OmniLite. So how do I do that? And, can you get me in touch with Loesch? Or, so there's interest in using this platform already. So that's very encouraging.
Yeah, and that's so for those of you who don't know like what this announcement is about, it's effectively you've got Litecoin as the infrastructure, right? Where all these smart contract capabilities can happen on top of the Litecoin network. Then you're going to see, we're already at all-time highs in terms of daily active addresses. We're gonna like see that gradually grow as this
Yeah.
ecosystem grows. So I'm excited for it. I'm very excited
Yeah,
for it.
because you're still going to have a lot of people who are going to utilize Litecoin for its original purpose, which was to, a peer-to-peer exchange. And then it gets thrown into all these large investment, platforms like, PIMCO now is going to be trading or allowing trading in cryptos. PIMCO is massive. You have like all these other institutions that are, bringing in Litecoin as well. And then now you have stuff like this happening as well. So you have the payments part of Litecoin, you have the investment part of Litecoin, you have the NFT, the DeFi, the create tokens, the crowdfunding, all these different things are now going to be something that's built on Litecoin. And I like seeing it's keeping its original purpose, but it's able to also branch out and not compromise the blockchain at the same time and bring in all of the cooler, funner parts of crypto at the same time.
Yeah. So that's really exciting. Definitely watch this space. All right. I think I've got a couple more slides, and I think we're also past our time. So I'll just share them, David. So the last two slides really is just a price chart of Litecoin, right? Where it's been, where it is right now. Today, like I said, I think it jumped 11% or something, and that's the US dollar price chart for Litecoin. And I think Michael had a comment about the LTC BTC one. So that's actually the next chart where this is Litecoin, priced in Bitcoin, right? We're at an all-time low.
All-time low.
All-time low, whilst daily active addresses are at an all-time high. So none of this is financial advice. That's right. Take it for what it is. And none of this is financial advice. It's just really interesting.
I have had people ask me this question.
Yep.
Because it'll be like, it's at the lowest point it's ever been against Bitcoin. And I'll be like, did you buy it to go against Bitcoin or did you buy it to go against fiat? Because for me personally, when I invested in it, it is way above what I invested in.
Yep.
So to me, how does that make me a loser? Because the Bitcoin to Litecoin ratio is lower. To me, it makes I don't care. I really don't care, because at the end of the day, what I invested in is now multiplied X amount of times. How does that make it a bad investment? It doesn't, right? Yeah. So I own Bitcoin too, and that Bitcoin was invested against fiat, not against anything else. Yeah. So my Litecoin was invested against fiat, not against Bitcoin. The fact that the ratios are at their lowest, okay, I don't know what to tell you, but that's not why I invested in it. So call me a loser, I guess. I don't know, but I'm a loser that's much better off than I was 4 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. And I suppose if, those of you out there who are, cashed up with a lot of Bitcoin, that's a very interesting chart for you to look at if you, have a lot of Bitcoin. And you're actually, for the Forex traders out there, like you probably know how these pairings work, right? So for the Forex traders out there, you look at this and you're like, oh, okay. So if you're holding Bitcoin, that just means that Litecoin's really cheap right now. It's the cheapest it's ever been. And if it goes up a little bit more, you've just made yourself more Bitcoin, right? That's if your base is Bitcoin. So I'll leave that as it is. None of this is financial advice anyway. Okay, we've got two more comments, and then we'll probably stop there, David.
Okay.
So Michael's got a comment. When is Litecoin going to be added to Text Street? Announcement was made many months ago now.
No idea. No.
All right.
Haven't heard anything about that.
So this one's from Michael. Is it true that Litecoin can only be efficiently mined with ASIC?
It's basically now on ASICs. Yeah, it's been that way for a few years.
Yep.
That's obviously not really going to change. All this stuff's going to get more and more complicated, or however you want to call it. It's going to need stronger and stronger computational power to do what it does. It is still cheaper than. Sorry, my wife's bringing a dog in. He was whining. Right. She's getting ready to leave. It is still cheaper than using or mining for Bitcoin, just because they hash different, right? So script versus SHA-256. SHA-256 is more power intensive, and script, which is used for Litecoin, is more memory intensive. And so, yes, you're still using electricity, and it is a little bit harder than it used to be to mine, but it's still easier. And it's also merge mine with Dogecoin, so you're able to actually, double your pleasure as far as a miner goes when you use Litecoin mining equipment. So
that's right, because so for all you Dogecoin lovers out there, if you didn't know, so Dogecoin is actually merge mine with Litecoin. What does that mean? That means that all the script miners out there, all those who are mining Litecoin out there, they also secure the Doge network by mining Doge. So as a miner, you get to earn both Litecoin and Doge. So
it helps secure the Doge blockchain. So if you're talking garbage about Litecoin, you got to remember the only reason why it's secure right now is because of Litecoin. So
that's right. And if you've ever used Doge to transfer value, and you've used Litecoin to transfer value, if you haven't, try it. You'll be in for a surprise. It's actually cheaper on Litecoin.
Yes, yeah. I have held back from showing that kind of metric because I'm trying not to. I don't want to be that guy. So I see it, and I know exactly what you're talking about. But yes, it's actually cheaper to send via Litecoin than Dogecoin.
Yeah, and I'm not hating on the Doge at all. I mean, it's a cool.
No, those are all numbers. Those are things that lack emotion. They're just literally there for you to digest. So that's just a fact. Yeah,
that's right. Hey, so David, it's 10 past or 11 past now. So I know you had a hard stop, but then you said plans have changed a little. Any last words or anything you'd like to add?
I want to say hi to Rob. I saw he just jumped on too.
Rob. All right.
Yeah, Rob's cool.
Put him on.
Yeah.
Rob, send our love.
I think just keep an eye out for everything that's going on in the future here. Litecoin's not going anywhere. It's only getting stronger. Very excited to bring Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Ethereum through GetHedge.io to the United States first. That'll be happening here extremely soon. And there's already plans to have it shortly thereafter in the EU and the UK. And now we're also looking at Latin America and Southeast Asia. And so those are all on our strategy map. And we're very happy about that. So, DCA through a payroll conversion platform where you don't have to really do anything other than get on there and set your allocations and let it ride.
That's probably the best for most people.
It is.
Yeah, most people are too busy. Yeah,
that's right. Rob, he already talked to me the other day. He wants to utilize it for his real estate business, so the commissions are converted from fiat into crypto.
Nice, awesome. Well, let us know when you're in my neck of the woods. I'd love to help in any way we can, and I'd love to use your I'd love to use the service.
Yep. As soon as it's available over there in Southeast Asia, man, I'll be letting you know.
Awesome. Well, have it. Look, again, thank you, David, for coming on. All the listeners out there, David's a great guy, very down to earth, very knowledgeable, and very friendly. And he comes on as a regular, just to give an update to the audience. And appreciate your time, David.
Yeah, no problem. I appreciate you having me on again. And I look forward to, let's see, so it's October now, probably somewhere around January. That's a good time, actually.
Yeah.
I'll see you again. Yeah.
Awesome. So have a great day, and thank you for staying on to the very end, guys. Thanks for listening in, and have a great day, David, and have a great evening for the rest of you.
Yeah, you too, man. Take care. Bye,
All right,
everybody.
take care. Bye bye.